Hello everyone and welcome again to another tutorial of Tutorials Point. Well, in this video, we are gonna discuss about the most awaited question in the interview. Well, do we really await all the questions which are asked in the interview? Well, not really. Don't we kind of feel like, it's kind of feeling, okay, when should this interview end and when do I get cleared of this interview? But there is only one question which we very eagerly await in an interview, and in this video we're going to discuss that. Well, what is it? Yes, it is relating to your salary, because ultimately that is what most of us are looking for, right? But at the same time, how do we negotiate a salary? How do we though we might be eager for it, or though we might be looking for a salary hike, but how do we negotiate that? Do you really think it would be a good idea to portray as desperate as you are? Not really. But at the same time, do you also think it would be a good idea to be way too gullible or be way too accepting as far as your salary negotiations are concerned? You might want to think again. So it is kind of a you have to be very witty. It is a very tough situation indeed, though we all await this question for our interview, but it is a very tough situation, and we all need to be very careful while we are negotiating our salary. Otherwise, the entire thing might just go for a toss, right? So let's get going and let's see what are the best ways to negotiate your salary. Okay, now how does all of this salary stuff start? Well, it starts with this question: what's your current salary, right? Okay, so during your interview, which when your interview is going on, so you might be shot with various questions like kind of maybe related to your experience or maybe related to your skill set or anything. But the moment this question is you're faced with this question, it's kind of a green signal, dude. You've already cleared, so we just want to negotiate the salary with you now. Yes, that's right. So it's kind of a green signal for us that okay, now all the technical stuff is done, so maybe very less is left, right? But again, when someone asks you this question, do you really think directly telling the salary would be the best idea? Well, not really. You might want to rethink, or if that's what you've been doing till now, you might want to change, and you will actually see by changing or by applying whatever we will discuss in this video, how has it actually boosted your career way too much. Yes, that's right. Okay, so let's see as to how do we negotiate this question whenever we are asked as to what's your current salary. Well, first of all, I want to make this thing very clear to all of you, and it's not just about me making it clear to you, it's about you also convincing yourself that asking someone's salary is not it's not considered very decent. So it's kind of considered sort of rude, right? There are even countries wherein asking someone's salary during an interview is even considered illegal. Yes, that is right. So whenever you're asked this question and you're not as comfortable to share your salary, you have all the good right to actually deflect this question or even ignore it or even deny answering this question. It is not considered wrong. You cannot be, no one can question you on that. But at the same time, you cannot be even way too rude while you are denying to answer this question, right? So you have to, even if you want to deny, you might want to do it or you might want to package your answer very diplomatically, such that it does not offend the person who is asking you the salary. So how do we start with it? Let's get going. Okay. So usually whenever you have your interview going on, you might be asked to fill up a form wherein you might be told to write down your current salary. Well, if you don't feel like, you definitely don't need to, it's not a compulsion that you need to add the numbers on the form, right? You might as well state, you might I'm not as comfortable putting numbers on the form because I feel that I should get paid according to my skill set. I would expect to get paid in this company basis my skill set, rather than I don't believe that my current salary should be based on what I already have earned, or what my previous package is, right? So you always have a right to put it forward. So it's not mandatory that you put a number on the form. You definitely can leave this column empty, and when asked about it, you definitely can deflect the question. Yes, that's right. So that is what exactly the second point is. So deflect or refrain the interview question. Yes, you definitely can state that I definitely feel that we can actually discuss during this interview. We should be discussing as to how I can add to the productivity of the organization, rather than discussing about the, I would be more comfortable discussing as to how I can contribute in the growth of the organization, rather than discussing about the numbers of or the figures which I earned or my previous package. I would be much more comfortable to discuss as to how I can contribute to the organization, rather than discussing what my previous package was. So it's a very, very polished, very diplomatic, very decent way of denying that you're not interested in answering that question, right? It's a very, very decent way of denying that I would be rather interested to discuss how I can contribute to this organization than discussing what I earned in my previous job. So I would appreciate if we continue the discussion wherein I can contribute to the organization, right? So that is a better way. And the moment you say this, definitely it is gonna, not just is it gonna save you from the pain of answering this question, it also is gonna create a very, very good impact on the interviewer. It definitely is gonna show that you're way too confident, you're very assertive, and you are a person who is primarily focused on contributing to the organization than just worrying about money, right? So you can definitely go forward and say that I would rather appreciate if you judge me, or if you decide my package, or if we kind of come to a consensus as far as my package is concerned, basis my skill set, than basis what I earned in my previous job. You also can put this forward, right? Post you state that I'm not interested, like I would rather appreciate if we discuss what I can contribute. You also can add in and say that I would rather appreciate, or I would be rather happy if I get paid according or basis my contribution or basis my skill set than what I earned in my previous job, right? So you have all the good right in the world to do that, and you definitely should do it if you are not comfortable in sharing what you earned in your last job, okay? Now, of course, that is a very, very good way of negotiating your salary. But what if you have no option? What if there is no option than to share your salary? Well, nothing to do. You definitely have no option left. So I think if you feel that sharing what you earn, or disclosing your package to the recruiter is the only way left, you can definitely go ahead and do it. There is no harm in doing that. But at the same time, if you feel and if you're not comfortable, you also have an option to negotiate this answer very, very diplomatically and in a polished way, as we just discussed, right? Let's go ahead. Okay, so post you are asked about your current salary, this is what comes up next. What's your expected salary? Well, now how do you answer that? Okay, so how do you know that? How do you get prepared for this question? We will discuss it here. Okay, so research what the company pays. So of course, in addition to all the dialogues which you just shot to the recruiter, yeah, I would rather focus on my contribution than on the money that I'm going to earn. And I would be happy if my salary is decided basis my skill set and not basis what I earn. You've given all the heroic and beautiful answers, but my dear, you also need to be sure, you also need to have a figure in mind, right? You cannot just go vague. So how do you get a figure in mind? So this is how you're going to get it. So how do you start with that? So before coming for that interview, it definitely is a good idea to research what the company pays, and there are n number of ways. If you go on finding, there are n number of ways to actually research and find out what is the general pay scale of of the people who work there. So doing this will actually give you a slight idea. You'll actually have a vague idea as to how, even if there is a situation wherein you have to quote, right, or wherein there is now a point wherein you have to negotiate, what should you be negotiating on? You're not completely blank, or it's not completely something out of the world for you. So if you have a slight idea, well, then definitely it is going to help you a lot. Okay, then know your worth. Yes, this is the biggest thing which is going to help you a lot in your salary negotiation, or rather I'd say this is the only thing that is going to help you to negotiate your salary. Because if you know your worth, right, it is then that, almost no one can underpay you, right? Because if you know what you're worthy of, definitely then you always have an option to negotiate, and then in that case you won't even get fooled, right? Because you know what is your worth. Okay, well, of course, knowing your worth is great, but how do you know that? Here it is. Okay, know what other companies will pay you for the job. Yes, that is a very, very good idea of knowing your worth, just in case you don't know how to convert your worth into money. Okay, so you might as well want to along with the the fact that you've researched about that particular company wherein you're going for an interview. Along with that, you should also do a research as to how much would your profile get paid, right? What is the market value of your profile, or what is the market value of the skill sets that you have? So doing this research is actually going to take you a long way, because then just in case you go for an interview, you definitely have a particular number to quote, right? And then of course you can also put forward, well, sir, I appreciate the offer that you give me, but there are many other offers which might just pay me what my worth is, right? Which might pay me my worth. So I would appreciate if we negotiate this offer to a particular number which you feel that is your worth, right? So now how can you quote that number? Only if you know what the market is going to pay you, right? So for that reason, it is very, very important that you know what the other companies are going to pay for this job, right? Okay, and last but not the least, you got to be very, very assertive. Yes, that is right. So don't fear a no, right? Because if you fear a no, you might not even realize that the recruiter might just take you for a ride and might just freeze the deal in a very, very low package. And to your surprise and to your dismay, post that you might even get to know that some other company was paying much more than this. Well, then you don't want to end up in a tight spot, do you? So it is always a better idea to follow all these steps, because only then would you be assertive. Because how do you actually become assertive? It only happens when you have confidence, right? That okay, if not this, I'll have something else in my hand. So you can only become assertive when you know your worth, when you know that if not this, I'll get something else, right? So that is something that is going to help you to be assertive. Well, another thing that you need to keep in mind is being assertive is different from being rude, right? So you definitely don't want to end up being rude, but at the same time, it is a good idea to be assertive. And being assertive, you can only be assertive if you know what your worth is, right? So do not forget to do a good research of the market before you go for any interview. That is actually the best salary negotiation technique, right? Okay. So this was one of the most important question which you're going to be faced with in your next interview. So I'm sure now it is going to be very easy for you to be successful, because now you know how to negotiate the best salary. Yes, that's right. So friends, we will see you again in the next video. Till that time, keep learning with Tutorials Point and Tutorix. Have a good day.